What's up guys, Lifting here. This is the beginning of a full tutorial playthrough for Path of Exile. In this series I'll be going over everything you need to know for the game while creating a new character and progressing through the game myself. The intention is to help you better understand the game, making you a better player and ultimately allowing you to have more fun. In this very first episode we're going to talk about the leagues and classes you can choose from, go over the game settings, the user interface, and from here make our very first steps on the beach and head into Lion's Eyes Watch. So let's start with the very first thing you do when you start up Path of Exile for the first time. You choose a league and a class. And the first of those you have to choose is the league. A league is similar, although not entirely the same as choosing a server for your character to be on. This character you then choose can only belong to one league at any time, and it cannot interact with characters outside of that league. In Path of Exile there are two permanent leagues always running, the Standard League and the Hardcore League. If your character dies in the Hardcore League, it gets moved to the Standard League. This means you don't lose your character, you just lose the right to continue in the Hardcore League and compete on the Hardcore ladder. Besides this, there are typically always two temporary challenge leagues running, one softcore and one hardcore. These leagues typically have a duration of 3 to 4 months, and the intention is to allow the players to start over with a new character in those leagues, thus providing a fresh experience and completely leveling the playfield. When these challenge leagues end, all characters in their stash inventory will be sent to their respective parent league, so either Standard or Hardcore League. This means you don't lose your character after a league ends, it simply gets transferred to one of the permanent leagues. For this playthrough I will select and create my character in the Parentis Softcore Challenge League. This takes us to the next step, choosing your class. In Path of Exile there are 7 different classes to choose from. And the main difference between each of these classes are their starting position in the skill tree and the available Ascendancy subclasses they have available to choose from. Each class has 3 Ascendancy classes they can choose from except from the Scion, which only has 1. Each of these Ascendancy classes each provides powerful but very different buffs to your character and needs to be chosen carefully to ensure you get the most out of your build. And we're not going to go over each Ascendancy class and what they provide, you can read that yourself, but as a general rule you could argue that the Marauder, being the main strength-based class in the game, typically is a good choice for anyone wanting to be sturdy and swing a heavy weapon. The Ranger, the main dexterity-based class, is typically a great choice for anyone wanting to use a bow or a projectile-based build. And the Witch, the main intelligence-based class of the game, is typically a good choice for anyone wanting to sling spells or use Energy Shield as their form of damage mitigation. That said, every class has the option of using spells, melee or bow attacks, they can use Energy Shield as a form of mitigation, they can use armor, or they can use evasion if built towards it. Basically, when you choose a class, you choose a template and then you fill it out with your decisions. For this playthrough I'll be going with a dear classic of mine, the two-handed Duelist Cyclone build. My reasoning for this is that the Duelist starts at a very favorable place in the skill tree, which allows me to pick up some early damage and life, making leveling easier. Besides that, by going Duelist I can choose between the 3 Ascendancy classes, the Slayer, Gladiator and the Champion, and for this build I'll be choosing the Champion, and I'll explain why in a later video. For now let's create our character and head into the game. So we're now at the Twilight Strain, the first area of Act 1. Before we start to progress, we're going to take a quick look at the game settings, so hit escape on your keyboard and click Options. Graphics and sound are of course subjective and entirely dependent on your preferences and machines, so there's no need to talk about these. The UI tab, however, has some interesting features you might want to know about. So first of all, if you have a fast, stable connection, I recommend using Lockstep. This will prevent desync or rubber banding and give you a much better experience with the game. That said, if you have a slower or an unstable connection, you might benefit more from running predictive mode. In that case, you have to enable it before logging onto your character in the main menu. Autocenter Map makes it so that if you hit the tab key and bring up the map overlay and then move it around, it will, whenever you hit tab, again center it on your character. And I recommend leaving this on. Always Highlight is another good feature to leave on. It basically shows everything you can interact with, such as loot, chests, doors, NPCs, and so forth. I'd also highly recommend leaving on Show Full Descriptions. This feature enables a tooltip window when hovering above an item, showing its stats and properties even while on the ground, allowing you to make an informed decision of whether or not this is an item you want to pick up. And most of the other settings are pretty straightforward. You can enable health bars above allies and enemies and even yourself if you want to. You can have the clock shown down by your flasks. You can enable auto-equip, which basically works so that if you find a pair of gloves and otherwise don't have anything currently equipped in that slot, it will automatically equip these. You can also set your default party loot allocation settings to either free for all, short allocation, or permanent allocation. Free for all makes it so that everyone can loot anything that drops. It is the simple matter of being the fastest to do so if you want the items. Short allocation randomly grants a specific player a short duration in which the item can only be picked up by that player, and permanent loot allocation makes the item drops permanently allocated to that randomly assigned player. The only way to otherwise pick up an item that is allocated to another player is if that player leaves the area. Finally, you have the option of enabling a loot filter. And this is basically a script you can load into the game that can highlight the items worth picking up and hide the ones that aren't worth picking up. It can even play a sound when something of value drops. And I highly recommend anyone to install one of these filters. It is a major quality of life improvement to the game. And I'm personally using NeverSync's loot filter, and I'm going to leave a link to it in the description of the video. Here you can read about what it displays, hides, and why it does so. There are also instructions on how to install it, of course. Alright, those were the settings I wanted to bring up. Now let me quickly explain the user interface and how it works. So first of all, you have your health and mana pool in each side of the screen. Mana is used to fuel the cost of your skills and spells, and you know how a life pool works. If it drops to 0, you die. Next to your health pool, you have your flasks, which are responsible for restoring your life and replenishing your mana. However, there are a multitude of different flasks in Path of Exile with each their different utility and use. In the next video, I'm going to explain how the mechanics behind these flasks works more in depth, but for now, just look at them as a means of restoring your life and mana. Near the bottom of the screen in the middle, you have your experience bar, and just like any other RPG or any character experience based game, once it fills up, your character gains a level. Now if we click the menu button here by the flasks, we gain access to all of the different features in the game. And I'm not gonna go over all of these, but I will show you the most important ones and what they do. So first of all, by clicking here or pressing I on your keyboard, you will open up your inventory. This is where you equip your character with weapons, armor, helmets, rings, belts, new flasks, and so on. Next, to open your character screen, you can hit C on your keyboard or click the menu button and select it here. Here you can see the details of your character, such as his level, life, mana, attributes, damage with certain skills, and his defenses. And to see the world map and your quest log, you can hit U on the keyboard or open it via the menu bar. This screen shows you where your character is currently at, where it can go, and if you have any quests, where you need to go to complete it. Right now we don't have any quests, but you'll be able to see this as we progress in just a bit. Now to show the overlay map, hit tab on your keyboard and you can then move this around by using the arrow keys, as we talked about just before when looking at the settings. Oh, and you can of course press the P button on your keyboard to open up your skill tree. Now if this is the first time you see the skill tree, don't be intimidated by it. I know I was the first time when I saw this, but don't make the mistake that I did and quit the game just because it looks too complicated. It is not too bad once you get an understanding of how it works. And if you're not interested in learning how it works, there's plenty of guides out there that will tell you how to spend your skill points, so don't worry about it. I will however recommend that you try to learn this, and I will of course in these videos try to teach you so. Finally, down here we have the hotkey bar. It is here your various skills will be placed and can be used once you obtain them. The easiest way to illustrate this is if I pick up this sword, talk to this dude over here, and kill this zombie. The zombie then drops a skill gem, and in this case double strike, which is a green gem indicating that it fits a green socket. Luckily for us, our recently found sword has one red, one green, and one blue socket. So we're going to place it in the green socket. Now keep an eye on the hotbar as we do this. As you can see, once we socketed the double strike gem into our equipped weapon, we can now utilize this skill. If we take it out, we can no longer use it. By default, the first skill you pick up will be allocated to the right click button. If you prefer having it on one of the other keys, you can simply click it and select the skill. And I will talk much more about skill gems, their interactions and so forth in the next video. But for now, it's time to progress into Lion's Eye's Watch, meet some NPCs and see what they have to offer. So as we move forward here on the Twilight Strand on our way into Lion's Eye's Watch, I can try attacking a few of the zombies with my normal attack, which looks something like this. Or I can use my newly acquired double strike skill, which looks something like this. And as you can see, the damage from double strike is better, but it also requires mana to use. And unless you're very new to the game and still need to learn the controls and so forth, I don't recommend spending too much time in this area. Instead, I suggest you simply follow the coast north until you encounter Hillock. Hillock is the first unique monster of the game, and in order to beat him, it requires that you keep an eye on your health and your mana and use your flasks when necessary. The Hillock fight has two phases. Once he reaches about 50% health, he will draw out his sword from his chest, and his attacks will then start to deal more damage. On higher difficulties, he will also start to leap slame and spawn zombies, but we don't have to worry about that now. Once you have defeated Hillock, loot everything and run into town. And just to give you an indication of how the quest log works, if you then click the U button on your keyboard, you can see that you have gained your first quest, which was to kill Hillock, and now you need to turn it in by talking to Tarkley in town. And by talking to Tarkley here, we then get the option of choosing 3 new skills: Cleave, Molten Strike and Shrapnel Shot. For this character I will start by picking up Molten Strike. Cleave is a decent choice as well, but Shrapnel Shot is a bow skill, and since I won't be using a bow with this character, I won't need it. And you should always carefully read the skill description, but as I've talked about, we will talk more about skill gems in the next video, so I'm gonna keep my explanations to myself until the next video. After that, we're going to talk to Nessa and Bestel to get our next quest, where we have to travel to the Tidal Island to locate a lost medicine chest for the people in Lion's Eye's Watch. And this is where we end this episode of the Path of Exile full playthrough tutorial. In this episode we talked about how leagues work, which class to choose, which settings to enable, we went over the UI, and we took our first baby steps on the shore of the Twilight Strand and headed into Lion's Eye's Watch. We then turned in our first quests, and here we are. In the next video we'll be talking about the different vendors in town and what they have to offer, how flasks work, what happens when you level up, and how skill gems interact with each other, all while we progress and head to the Tidal Island for the medicine chest and into the submerged caverns for our first optional but recommended quest. I hope this first episode has been somewhat entertaining or at least enlightening. If you guys want to see more of these, let me know in the comments or by clicking that like button. It gives me the indication of whether or not this is something that has your interest. For now, remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Thank you for watching, and bros, do you even nerd?